What's good, fam? We are looking at the desperate reaching that happens when the biggest pop star on earth has his soul snatched. He apparently needs an Ivy League professor to write his apology letters because he can't find the words to save his own skin. The Kendrick Lamar and Drake saga has moved past the music and straight into the excuses. This latest play from the Drake camp is easily the most embarrassing thing since the Heart Part 6 hit the internet. Michael Eric Dyson appeared on the Mohr Stories podcast on February 24th, 2026 to drop what he called a high-level critique of Kendrick's massive anthem, Not Like Us. Dyson remains famous for using $50 words to explain 10-cent problems, and that is why he decided to invent a brand new term called de-blacking to describe Kendrick's approach to Drake over the last 2 years. The professor claims Kendrick is running a calculated strategy to question the cultural authenticity and biracial heritage of the sixth-eyed God, and the result is a narrative that this is somehow unfair to the global black experience. Revoking the black card of a man who grew up in the suburbs of Toronto became the main accusation Dyson threw at Kendrick during the interview. Instead of a standard hip-hop beatdown, he framed the whole situation like a human rights violation. Watching this academic defense feels like a transparent attempt to salvage a reputation that Kendrick already buried under the stage at the Forum. Since tracks like Family Matters couldn't shift public opinion at all, they are now bringing in the professors to do the heavy lifting. It feels wild how these defenders only start talking about the complexity of identity when their favorite artist starts falling off. Silence was their only response, while Drake spent years cosplaying as a tough guy from every city he visited just to get a check. Dyson presented the argument that Kendrick attempts to shrink the definition of blackness down to the streets of Compton. Ignoring the deep roots of black Canadians who fled American slavery for freedom in the North is apparently Kendrick's biggest mistake based on the professor's logic. That might be a solid history lesson for a college classroom. But here's the thing, it has nothing to do with why the culture turned its back on a man who treats the struggle like a costume he can take off before heading back to his mansion. The reaching did not stop there, as Dyson took his narrative to a place that left the whole hip-hop community confused and shaking their heads. During a controversial statement reported by Rolling Out on February 28th of 2026, Dyson actually had the nerve to compare the rhetoric of Kendrick Lamar to Donald Trump. He argued that the US versus them logic found in the lyrics of Not Like Us works as a perfect anthem for exclusionary political nationalism. That is a wild claim to make about a song that brought the entire city of Los Angeles together for a massive peace rally. Dyson made specific comparisons between the energy of that track and the immigration policies of the Trump administration. The claim was that the logic Kendrick used is the same as telling someone they do not belong because they are Somalian or Mexican. This comparison backfired with fans who pointed out that the critique was never about nationality or race. They know the message was actually about the specific behavior and predatory nature of a man who uses the culture for profit without ever giving back. Kendrick was not coming for Drake for being Canadian. Instead, he was calling him a colonizer who exploits the sounds and struggles of black people while staying hidden in a high-walled estate. Back on February 9th of 2025, Dyson reflected on Kendrick headlining Super Bowl Lenin and suggested the massive global performance was a troubling cultural force. It is wild to see an academic look at a moment of pure black excellence and unity and try to make it sound like a hate group meeting. All of this energy is just to protect the feelings of a man who clearly lost a rap battle. Over-intellectualizing the situation seems to be his only move because the facts on the ground are too painful for the Drake camp to accept. When you start comparing Pulitzer Prize winners to controversial politicians just to make a point, you have already lost the argument and the respect of the people who live this life. The streets do not care about Ivy League theories when the music is telling a completely different story. No amount of academic jargon will change the reality that the culture already picked a winner. The professor is out here fighting for a man who probably cannot even pronounce half the words in the defense, and the irony is not lost on anyone watching this play out. We are seeing a complete disconnect between the people who study the culture and the people who actually create the pulse of it. Right now, the scholars are looking just as lost as the boy hiding in the embassy. Kendrick did not have to write a thesis to prove his point because the people already felt it in their souls. That is something a podcast interview in 2026 can never take away from him. Before we move on and see how Dyson starts acting like a whole genealogist to save this man's street cred, tell me what y'all think. Do these scholars even get a vote in a rap beef, or is that strictly for the streets? Tell me in the comments, no cap. While you at it, like and subscribe. Let's continue. Dyson is acting like a celebrity genealogist instead of a music critic by digging through a family tree to prove Drake has enough seasoning for the cookout. During his interviews, the professor pointed to the Memphis roots of Dennis Graham and the legendary Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone, who is Drake's uncle. He reached into the archives to mention a report that Drake's grandmother babysat Aretha Franklin, as if that makes you immune to being a culture vulture in 2026. On May 19, 2024, Dyson appeared on the Stephen A. Smith Show to compare Drake to Idris Elba, hoping to silence critics calling the boy a fraud. His logic suggests that if we accept a British actor playing Black American roles, we should accept a Canadian actor playing a street rapper. That misses the entire point of what Kendrick was saying on those tracks. There is a massive divide between the academic version of blackness Dyson teaches in an Ivy League classroom and the street authenticity Kendrick lives every day. The professor advocates for a global fluidity where anyone can be anything, but fans see that as an excuse for Drake to keep cosplaying for trends. Having a father from Memphis is one thing, but using that heritage as a shield when you are called out for taking more than you give is another. Dyson is trying to use the accomplishments of Larry Graham to validate a man who uses accents like seasonal outfits, and the community is not buying it. Validating a lineage is just a way to bypass criticism of how Drake operates in the industry, and a history lesson about Aretha Franklin cannot fix that. Dyson seems to think proximity to greatness is the same as personal integrity. Kendrick showed the world those two things are miles apart when the pressure is on. The culture was not going to let these academic reaches go unchecked, and the response from TDE was swift and calculated to put Dyson in his place. On February 26, 2026, the president of Top Dog Entertainment, Punch, told Dyson on social media that he was taking rap lyrics too personally. Punch made it clear that in a rap war, your opponent will exploit every perceived weakness, and Drake's identity became fair game once he initiated the conflict. Lyrical wars are not sociology lectures, and trying to change the rules of engagement after your guy lost the fight is a weak move for an intellectual. Rapper Glasses. Malone also jumped in to counter Dyson, stating Kendrick's critique was never about DNA or bloodlines, but the way Drake cosplays for profit. Although Dyson had a theory on May 15, 2024 about a proxy war involving colorism and Jewish identity, people saw it as over-intellectualizing a standard beatdown. You cannot use a doctorate degree to shield a man from his own actions, especially when he spent years trying to convince us he was something he is not. The idea of a proxy war suggests fans are not smart enough to see the truth, which is a mistake academics make when telling the streets how to feel. Despite the history dives Dyson provided, the consensus is that Kendrick's anthem has already won the cultural war and defined the narrative for the future. Punch correctly pointed out that Dyson is missing the spirit of the competition, which is about dominance and skill rather than a debate on international identity. The whole effort to rescue Drake's image with these Ivy League lectures and weird Trump comparisons shows exactly how much the Not Like Us era changed the music industry for good. Dyson is fighting a battle that ended months ago. Kendrick Lamar didn't just win a simple rap beef because he actually triggered a massive debate about who is authentic and who is just a manufactured industry plant. Talk about global fluidity, or Black Canadian roots won't change how fans felt Kendrick's lyrics, while Drake's music just sounded empty. Trying to turn a knockout into a sociology thesis, Dyson is stuck on the intro while the rest of the culture is already moving on to the next chapter. Drake couldn't even save his own failed disses with his own pen, so there's no way a professor who treats rap battles like a college debate club is going to fix this mess. Spotlight moments like this prove that hiding behind academic friends doesn't work. Building a mansion on sand, Drake tried to hide his lack of substance. Now that the tide has finally come in, these highbrow defenders are the ones looking desperate and completely disconnected from the streets. Deciding the winner themselves, the fans let the records do the talking and turned this Ivy League rescue mission into a tiny footnote in the story of Kendrick's total victory. Everyone knows who is actually like us and who is just faking it to get a bigger bag, and no amount of academic gymnastics from Michael Eric Dyson will ever change that. Authenticity became the only currency that mattered once the smoke cleared. While the rest of the world was still screaming his anthem, Kendrick proved his point while professors were left wondering why their theories failed. Fans won't let anyone rewrite that history.